Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Okay, I want you to picture a scene. We've all seen it 100 times. You're at the gym, maybe over by the free weights, and you spot that guy.
Oh, yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He is just absolutely grinding. That's there every morning, 6:10 a.m. sharp, chalk on his hands, sweat dripping off his nose.
The dedication is undeniable. You have to admire it.
Oh, absolutely. But here's the thing that drives me crazy just watching it, and I bet it drives him crazy too. He stands up, wipes off the sweat, and something just doesn't add up. Despite the miles on the treadmill and all the heavy iron, he's still got this kind of protruding belly. And I'm not talking about a beer gut. It's different.
Yeah, it looks almost hard or pushed out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you notice that despite all those heavy squats, his glutes look completely flat, like strangely flat.
The jeans are just hanging off him.
Yes. And you have to wonder, why isn't the math adding up? Why is all that input not matching the output?
It's the million-dollar question in male fitness. And, usually we see that and we just assume it's diet. We think, oh, he needs to cut carbs, or maybe he's just got bad genetics.
Right.
But more often than not, the answer isn't metabolic, it's structural.
Oh, and that is exactly what we are digging into today. We are exploring a fascinating piece of work by Alexandra Kash. It's from her book, Longevity Through Physical Activity, The 15-Minute Habit.
And don't let that gentle title fool you.
No, not at all. This is a bit of a wake-up call, especially for the guys.
It really is. It challenges a lot of assumptions.
So Alexandra Kash, she's a certified personal trainer, a behavior change specialist, and she tackles a subject that, let's be honest, most men would rather walk over hot coals than discuss.
I mean, it is arguably the ultimate taboo in male fitness.
She argues that the missing link, the reason for that stubborn belly, the flat glutes, and even that nagging lower back pain, is the pelvic floor.
The silent powerhouse. And it's tragic, really, because society has sort of collectively decided that the pelvic floor is strictly a women's issue.
100%.
Yeah.
If you say pelvic floor to the average guy spotting you on the bench press, he's thinking pregnancy. He's thinking postpartum recovery.
Yep.
He is definitely not thinking deadlift PR or athletic performance.
And that misconception is precisely why so many men hit a plateau they just can't break through.
Yeah.
They're ignoring the foundation. Kash uses this metaphor that I think is brilliant.
The skyscraper one. I love this visual. Let's break it down.
Okay, so imagine you're building this massive tower. You can use the finest steel for the beams. That's your chest, your quads, your big show muscles.
Mm-hmm.
You can install beautiful, gleaming glass windows. That's your biceps and triceps. But if you build that tower on a swamp...
It doesn't matter how expensive the windows are.
Exactly. If the foundation, the basement level is unstable, the whole building is going to shift. It's going to crack. Eventually, it might just collapse. In our body, the pelvic floor is that basement foundation.
So if it's weak, the whole structure is compromised. So I think our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We need to get over the macho stigma that says we shouldn't care about this stuff.
Yeah, we have to.
We're going to look at the actual mechanics of why traditional ab workouts might be making things worse, identify those visible signs of a weak floor, and then, of course, get into the practical how-to for fixing it.
And the best part is, fixing it doesn't really require a gym membership. It mostly requires awareness.
Okay, so let's start with that elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Why is this such a massive psychological barrier for men? Is it really just because we associate it with women's health?
Well, that's the surface level, sure. But deeper down, I think it's about two things: visibility and function. First, the pelvic floor is invisible.
Right.
You can't flex it in the mirror like a bicep. You can't see the pump after a workout.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Precisely and functionally. Well, it's associated with the bathroom. It controls the bladder and the bowels. These aren't exactly things we want to discuss while comparing lifting stats.
It feels vulnerable.
It feels unmanly to acknowledge that you might have a weakness there.
Which is so ironic, isn't it? Because as we're about to find out, ignoring it is what actually undermines your quote-unquote manly strength.
Right. Kathesh has this great perspective in the book. She says, true strength isn't about ignoring your weak points because you're too proud to look at them. That's just fragility. True strength is confronting the weakness. If you're ignoring a part of your body that literally holds your organs in place because it feels awkward, you're not being strong. You're just being avoidant.
That is a heavy hit, but a necessary one. So let's get technical for a second. Let's trip away the stigma. What does this muscle group actually do for a man structurally? Beyond the obvious.
Okay, think of it like a hammock. It's a hammock of muscles stretching from your tailbone in the back to your pubic bone in the front. Its main job is to support the pelvic organs. But for anyone listening who's interested in performance, you need to think of it as the floor of the core.
The floor of the core.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your core isn't just a six-pack. Mechanically, it's a pressure canister, like a soda can. The diaphragm is the lid on top, the ab wall is the sides, and the pelvic floor is the bottom.
Okay.
When you lift something heavy, you increase pressure inside that canister to stabilize your spine.
That's the bracing cue we always hear. Tighten your core.
Exactly. But imagine squeezing a tube of toothpaste with the cap off.
It just goes everywhere.
Right. If the lid, your diaphragm, pushes down to create pressure, and the walls, your abs, squeeze in, but the floor is weak, all that pressure just blows out the bottom. You lose stability. You lose power.
So you're literally leaking energy.
Leaking energy and risking injury. And to touch on something very relevant to men, it's crucial for sexual health.
I imagine this is the part where some ears might poke up. How does the anatomy connect there?
It's purely mechanical. The pelvic floor muscles help trap blood flow to maintain erections. They provide control. A weak floor can lead to issues with endurance and, well, strength in that department.
So if we're listing attributes generally considered masculine, heavy lifting, sexual performance, the pelvic floor is a linchpin for all of them.
It's the transmission. And it also creates harmony between your hips, your glutes, and your lower back. If you want pain-free movement, this hammock needs to be strong and pliable.
Okay, I want to circle back to that guy we mentioned, the one with a protruding belly. Kash calls this a visible sign of a weak pelvic floor. How does a weak muscle down there cause a belly up here?
This is a huge aha moment for so many people. We just think a belly is fat, visceral fat. But Kash identifies a specific type of protrusion, that pooch that won't go away with diet.
The one that looks stubborn?
Yes. Remember that canister analogy. If the pelvic floor is weak, the brain senses instability. It knows the spine is at risk. So the body can't effectively manage its intra-abdominal pressure.
Okay.
So the abdominal wall, the rectus abdominis, it sort of inhibits itself or turns off because it doesn't have a stable base to pull against.
Wait, so the abs literally stop working as a corset?
In a way, yeah. The internal contents, your organs, they push outward and downward because they aren't being held high and tight from the bottom.
So it creates the illusion of a gut.
Exactly. You could be at 10% body fat shredded everywhere else, but if your pelvic floor is sagging, your organs just sit lower and push forward.
That is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So you're doing hundreds of crunches to tighten the wall, but the foundation is effectively letting the house sink.
And those crunches might be making it worse. If you crunch hard, you increase that intra-abdominal pressure. If the floor can't handle it, you're just forcing everything further down and out. It's completely counterproductive.
Okay, that explains the belly. Now, what about the drooping glutes? This sounds like a vanity thing, but it's structural too, right?
Oh, deeply structural. This connects to something called anterior pelvic tilt.
That's the Donald Duck posture, isn't it? Where your butt sticks out and your back arches.
That's the one. Imagine your pelvis is a bucket of water. If you tip it forward, water spills out the front. That's anterior tilt. Now, why does that happen? Often, it's a compensation for a weak core and pelvic floor.
Okay.
The body tries to find stability by jamming the facet joints in the lower back together, which hurts.
Ouch.
And when the pelvis is permanently tipped forward like that, look what happens to the glutes. They're lengthened. They're constantly stretched out.
And a muscle that's constantly stretched.
Cannot generate force. It's called active insufficiency in biomechanics or just bad leverage. You can do 1,000 squats, but if your pelvis is tilted, your glutes just can't fully contract at the top. The skeleton is in the way.
So they just hang there.
They look flat because they aren't working. They're dormant. And meanwhile, your lower back is taking all the load.
Which explains why the guy at the squat rack is always wearing a weight belt.
Exactly. He's structurally compromised. Kash uses an analogy in the text that's perfect. Training your abs and glutes without fixing your pelvic floor is like patching up a sinking boat without fixing the hole.
You're just polishing the deck while the hull is breached.
It's the definition of wasted effort. And this leads to what she calls system failure.
System failure sounds pretty dramatic.
It is, but it's like a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand that muscles don't work in isolation. We have this bodybuilding mentality of Monday is chest day, but the body is a network.
A team.
The pelvic floor is intimately connected to the transverse abdominis, that's your deep, natural corset muscle, and the diaphragm. They are a functional unit. If the pelvic floor calls in sick, the whole team struggles.
And when the timing is off, Something else has to pick up the slack, right?
The compensators. Your body is incredibly smart. If you try to deadlift and your core isn't firing, right? Your body doesn't say, oh, let's just drop the weight. It says, okay, plan B. Let's use the lower back erectors. Let's use the hip flexor.
The path of least resistance.
But it's also the path of most pain. Those muscles aren't designed to stabilize heavy loads alone. They get overworked, they get tight, they get inflamed.
So that chronic lower back tightness, it's not actually a back problem. It's a core timing problem.
Precisely. And what do? We stretch the back. We treat the symptom, not the root cause. Kash is basically shouting, stop treating the smoke and look for the fire. The fire is the weak foundation.
Okay, I think we've successfully diagnosed the problem. And if you're listening to this and checking your posture or realizing why your belly sticks out, you're probably thinking, okay, my boat is sinking. How do I fix the hole?
And the good news is the fix isn't more heavy lifting. In fact, it's the opposite. It starts with subtlety.
Step 1 is awareness.
Yes. You cannot strengthen a muscle you cannot feel. And because this muscle is internal, most men have zero proprioception, zero body awareness of it.
So we have to use the classic cue, the one everyone giggles at, but it actually works.
The stop peeing cue.
Walk us through it.
It's simple. You just imagine you are midstream, urinating, and you have to stop the flow, that internal lift, that little clench. That's your pelvic floor.
But there is a massive warning label on this in the book, isn't there?
A huge one. And this is where most guys go wrong. They try to do this with maximum effort. They clench their glutes, squeeze their thighs, suck in their stomach, hold their breath.
The bear down method, brute force it.
Which is completely wrong. That's not isolation. That's just panic. The goal of step 1 is, can you engage that specific stop pee muscle without moving anything else?
So your glutes are soft, your thighs are relaxed, you're breathing normally.
Exactly. It's incredibly difficult at first. You're looking for a small internal lift, not a massive contraction. It's just about finding the switch before you try to turn up the voltage.
Okay, once you find that switch, we move to step 2, which Kash calls breathing with purpose.
This is the game changer. This connects the floor to the rest of the canister system.
How does the breath connect to the muscle?
Think of a piston. When you inhale, your diaphragm moves down to pull air in. This increases pressure in the abdomen. So naturally, your pelvic floor should relax and lower to accept that pressure.
So inhale equals relax and expand.
Correct. Now on the exhale, the diaphragm moves up to push air out. This is when the pelvic floor should naturally lift and contract to help stabilize.
So it's a mirroring effect.
It's a rhythm. Inhale, down and relax. Exhale, up and engage. Most people have this completely backwards, or they just don't use the floor at all.
So the exercise is just sitting there breathing.
At first, yeah. Sit in a chair. Inhale, feel the expansion all the way down. Exhale, gently lift the pelvic floor. Do that for 5 minutes. You're rewiring your brain.
It sounds almost too simple to be effective.
Simple but profound. If you can't do this while sitting in a quiet room, you definitely can't do it with 300 pounds on your back. You have to earn the right to progress.
Okay, so we've got awareness, we've got the breathing piston. Step 3 is functional integration. This is where we leave the chair.
Yes. Now we apply it to movement. Kash suggests starting with something like a bridge or a squat.
Okay, let's take the squat. How do I integrate the floor there?
As you go down into the squat, the eccentric phase, you're inhaling. You let the floor relax and lengthen.
You don't hold it tight on the way down.
No. Common mistake. You let it lengthen to load the spring. Then, as you drive up from the bottom, the concentric phase, you exhale and you engage that lift.
So the exhale and the lift power the movement upward.
Exactly. You are timing the pelvic floor contraction with the peak effort of the glutes. This teaches the body to protect the spine from the bottom up.
That makes so much sense. It's dynamic, not static.
Which leads us to the most critical warning in the entire book.
Yeah.
Step 4, balance.
This was the part that surprised me. Because, guys think if some tension is good, maximum tension all the time must be better.
The more is better trap. Kash warns explicitly against hypertonicity,
Which is a fancy word for.
a muscle that is too tight and cannot relax. I mean, imagine walking around all day with your bicep fully flexed.
You'd look ridiculous and your arm would just hurt.
Your arm would be useless. It wouldn't be strong. It would be exhausted. A muscle needs to be able to lengthen fully, to contract fully. If your pelvic floor is clenched 247 from stress or trying to hold in your gut, you're creating weakness.
So a strong pelvic floor isn't a tight one. It's a supple one.
It's a responsive one, on when you need it, off when you don't. Kash emphasizes you must include relaxation and stretching. Focus on letting go just as much as lifting.
And if you don't, you end up with pelvic pain, right?
Yes. Chronic pelvic pain, urinary issues, even erectile dysfunction can come from a floor that is too tight. So please don't walk around clenching all day. You're just giving yourself a cramp.
That is such a crucial distinction. Control, not constant tension.
Exactly.
So let's zoom out. We've gone from the stigma to the sinking boat to the piston breathing. When you put this all together, what's the new definition of strength we're arriving at?
I think Kash sums it up beautifully. She moves us away from this idea of strength as hardness or strength as bulk. She defines true strength as harmony. It's when the internal systems support the external movement. It's when your mind connects to the hidden parts of the body. When you fix the floor, your posture improves naturally, not because you're forcing it, but because the foundation is level.
You just stand taller without trying.
You move with more power because you aren't leaking energy. And frankly, there's a mental shift, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are solid all the way through.
It's the difference between looking strong, the show muscles, and actually being strong.
Precisely. It's functional longevity. It's the difference between having a body that breaks down at 40 and one that keeps performing at 70.
So for everyone listening, the call to action here isn't to go buy a new supplement or sign up for a new gym.
No, it's just to start with curiosity. You can do this in your car. You can do it right now while listening.
Just sit tall, take a deep breath, see if you can find that connection, see if you can stop the flow without clenching your jaw or your glutes.
Just test your foundation. If you can't feel it, don't panic. Just start practicing the breath.
And I want to leave you with this thought to chew on. We spend so much energy looking for the secret to fitness, the magic pill, the perfect routine, the hack. But what if the answer to your physical frustrations, that belly, that back pain, that plateau, wasn't out there in some product?
What if it was literally inside you, just waiting to be activated?
Exactly. Are you willing to step out of your comfort zone, ignore the stigma, and actually build your skyscraper from the ground up?
Yeah.
Because that is where the real work begins.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.